Once upon a time, in a quiet city, there lived a young girl named Medusa. People said she was the most beautiful girl they had ever seen. Her long hair shimmered like gold, and her eyes were as deep as the ocean. But Medusa didn't care about being admired. She liked quiet places, simple things, wild flowers, the sound of the wind, and the peace of still mornings. She worked in a temple. Every day she cleaned its stones, picked fresh flowers for the altars, and whispered quiet prayers. It was a place of silence, of respect, of calm, and Medusa felt safe there, maybe for the first time in her life. But sometimes the world doesn't like when someone simply wants peace. One day, a powerful god named Poseidon saw Medusa. He was the ruler of the sea, mighty, feared, and full of pride. People believed he could summon storms with a whisper, drown whole armies, and crack the earth open with a single strike of his trident. With him came waves and thunder, and the kind of power that made even kings fall to their knees. Temples were built, not just to honor him, but to keep him calm. Because when Poseidon was angry, cities vanished beneath the sea. He lived in a world where no one dared deny him, where his desire was enough to make anything his. And when he looked at Medusa, he didn't see a girl with a kind heart. He didn't ask who she was or what she loved. He saw something he desired, and he took it. Right there, inside the temple where she felt most safe, he hurt her. No one came to help her. No one asked what had happened. People didn't care about Medusa's tears or her silence. They only cared that the sacred temple had been shamed. And instead of blaming the one who caused the pain, they blamed the one who had endured it. Everything changed after that. The place that once brought her peace became a place of silence and shadows. The stones she used to clean now felt cold beneath her feet. The prayers she once whispered disappeared from her lips. She no longer picked flowers for the altar because nothing felt sacred anymore. The wind still blew, the sun still rose, but Medusa's world had gone quiet. People looked at her differently, but no one asked why, and the worst part, she didn't have the words to tell them. The goddess of the temple, Athena, was angry, but not at Poseidon. She punished Medusa instead. Why? That's something people still wonder. Some say Athena was furious that her sacred temple had been dishonored, that her pride as a goddess had been stained. In her eyes, Medusa had broken a rule, even if she was never given a choice. Others say Athena's curse was not a punishment, but a protection. She made Medusa's hair into snakes and gave her a terrible new power. Anyone who looked directly into Medusa's eyes would turn to stone. Some say it was to make sure no one could ever hurt her again, that the snakes were not chains, but armor. But even if that were true, even if it was meant to protect her, was it fair? Was it kind? No one asked Medusa what she wanted. No one listened to her voice. No one gave her the chance to heal. She had already lost her peace. Now she was losing herself. Medusa was scared. She didn't want to hurt anyone. She hadn't asked for power or revenge, only for peace. But now her presence alone could bring fear. One glance and someone could turn to stone. How could she live among people again? So she left. She climbed into the mountains, far from the cities and the stories. She built a home where no one could reach her, where no eyes would judge her, where she could finally be alone, not because she wanted to be, but because she had no other choice. And there, in that silence, Medusa had time to think. She wondered, what did I do to deserve this? She replayed the moments in her mind over and over again. She wasn't angry. She wasn't cruel. She had been a quiet girl with flowers in her hands. How had she become the thing people feared? She never hurt anyone unless they came too close, unless they looked at her like Poseidon once did, like she wasn't a person at all. Still, the world outside kept spinning. Stories were told, myths were written. They called her a monster, but no one had spoken to her. No one had asked her side. No one had sat beside her long enough to see the girl beneath the silence. She wasn't proud of her curse. She didn't enjoy the power it gave her. If she could have traded it for one kind word, one person who believed her, she would have done it in a heartbeat. There were moments late at night when she imagined walking down a street like everyone else, laughing with someone, looking someone in the eyes without fear, being held, being seen. And then she would remember that even her reflection was too dangerous now. She didn't just lose people, she lost herself. One day, a young man named Perseus came. He had been told that killing Medusa would make him a hero. He didn't wonder why she lived alone. He didn't ask what had happened to her. He found her in her sleep, tired, quiet, still, and took her life. People cheered. They celebrated his bravery, but no one cried for Medusa. They never saw her for who she was. And when we think about it, how often do we do the same? How many people do we label without knowing their pain? How many times do we hear only one version of a story and believe it completely? How often do we mistake silence for guilt or loneliness for danger? How many people walk through life with stories we never hear simply because we never asked? Medusa's story reminds us that silence isn't always peace, that someone who hides away isn't always dangerous, and that sometimes the people we fear the most were once the ones who needed the most kindness. So maybe her story wasn't told to scare us. Maybe it was meant to slow us down, to make us look again, to remind us that even the quietest soul has a story, and that sometimes all a person really wants is to be safe.